you enjoyed listening over the weekend. Last time, Fritz and Goethe received a package from their father with seeds and money. They come up with a new plan for covering up the dirt, and then Officer Mueller comes by to visit them while they're working. And Goethe is terrified by how close they come to being exposed. All right, keep on thinking about trust and risk. Keep those themes in your mind somewhere as you listen. And I want you to pick up on ways that these themes are being shown through the characters' actions and through the narration of the novel, okay? So Anna's going to come, and the first kind of thing I want you to think about is if Goethe is willing to trust Anna with what she's doing with the tunneling. Do you think she's willing to trust her? Is she trustworthy? Think about that. Fritz and I spent the following morning in the tunnel. He had hit more rock, but he didn't want to move sideways again. I worry that we're tunneling at an angle, he said. If we don't stay straight, we'll cost ourselves weeks of extra work. So we dug out what rock we could and made the path only as wide as it absolutely had to be for a body to squeeze through. I thought about Mama here, whether she would feel comfortable in such a closed-off area. Fritz and I would be used to it, but when we brought her down here, she might not like the feeling of being in a dark and narrow tunnel so far below ground. After several hours' work, we got past the rock, and Fritz helped me haul what we had removed up to the surface. I was reluctant, meaning she didn't want to use the wheelbarrow again. It had been such a close call with Officer Mueller yesterday, but I wouldn't be able to get the rocks outside otherwise. I was on my way to the pond with a load of middle-sized rocks and some dirt, all covered over with one of Mama's sheets, when I stopped. Another visitor was coming, Anna. She was alone today and wore capri pants and a sturdy button-down shirt. Gardening clothes. Even her brown boots were different from her usual pair. In one hand was a basket that I knew must contain a day's supply of food and water, and in her other hand was a small shovel. I quietly groaned and set the wheelbarrow down. "Guten Tag," she called to me. "It looks like you've already had another hard day of work." "We have," I said. "We're probably going to quit for the day, in fact." "We?" Anna looked around. "Where is Fritz today?" Her voice turned skeptical, meaning not trusting. "Another errand?" "Yes." I knew that didn't reflect well on Fritz, but what choice did I have? Anna pressed her eyebrows together. "He leaves the hard work for you too often. I don't usually see him working here, only you." My mouth suddenly went dry, so much that I had trouble speaking. "You've been watching us?" She laughed, with no idea of how serious my question had been. "Only when passing by the alley, that's all. Anyway, I told you I would come to help, and my mother said I could stay as long as I wanted. I'm looking forward to it." Her eyes darted to the clothesline. "You started doing your laundry here, too? That's odd." "We have running water and room to hang the clothes when they're cleaned. It's better than our washer back home." Anna walked me over with me to the sheets to inspect them better. "Are you sure about that? I mean, I don't mean to be rude, Goethe. I know you're doing your best with your mother gone, but these aren't that clean." "I am doing my best," I said defensively. She wasn't being unkind, it's just that she had no idea of how tired I was, how hungry I was, and how frightened I was every minute of the day that we would be discovered. If I were any more tired or hungry or afraid, I would spend every waking minute crying and every moment of sleep racked by nightmares. But as it was, my senses were constantly on alert while we were here, and I fell into such deep sleeps at night that I couldn't remember if I still dreamed anymore. "I'm sorry," Anna said. "I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. I came to help, really. And I can pull weeds or water the plants or help you with the wash, whatever you want. I brought food we can share, even enough for Fritz if he returns. And I thought we could talk and catch up." I tried not to look as sad as I felt while I stared at her. Of course I wanted our friendship back. I missed her as much as I missed my parents and Dominic. In some ways, maybe more, because up until a couple of months ago, she had known me better than almost anyone in the world. And it would have been wonderful to have her company here through the long afternoons. Except for the times I was down in the tunnel with Fritz, or he was up here with me, this was lonely work. But it was impossible to allow Anna to stay. Fritz couldn't leave the building while she was here, and I wouldn't be able to empty the dirt, or even touch the wheelbarrow right in front of me. The first thing she'd try to do if I accepted her help would be to peel off the sheet from the wheelbarrow to wash it. She's doubting whether she can bring Anna into this, and I wonder why you think she's doing that. Do you think she could be trying to protect Anna? And then she'd see what a fraud the entire clothesline really was. "I appreciate your offer, but Fritz and I want to do this by ourselves. I had to be firm, but try to be polite as well. More than ever, I still wanted her as a friend. Oh, I did hurt your feelings, Anna frowned. I truly am sorry. The laundry's fine, Gerta. It's hard to do so much on your own. I'm not on my own, I said. I have my brother with me, and my mother will be home soon. Thank you for asking, but we don't need help. I swallowed hard and added, we don't want it. I'm trying to get our friendship back. Anna's face flushed as if she were holding back tears. I'm trying, Gerta. But my face had turned to stone just as hers used to. It's too late for that. Oh, all right. Anna's eyes darted around as if she wasn't sure what to do next. I had never been so rude, and even if I'd punched her, I couldn't have hurt her worse. She lowered her head and backed off the lot. Well, goodbye then. I stood in place until she disappeared down the alley. Only when I was sure I was alone did I wheel the dirt and sheet to the pond and start the wash again. This time I needed more privacy than ever from the road, and from the watchtower, and even from Fritz, because I was certain I had just lost a friend forever, and the sadness of that was more than I could bear. Okay, I don't know if you're ready for chapter 29. I spent the early evening back in the tunnel with Fritz. After clearing through the rock, he had made good progress that afternoon. It's to the point where we have to know how much farther to go, Fritz said. You need to get into Anna's apartment and look at the death strip. I had already told him about our visit that afternoon. If only I could go back and redo that moment in a smarter, kinder way. She won't let me in, I said, not now. You have to get inside, he insisted. There's nothing more important with this tunnel than knowing when it's safe to go to the surface. If we come up too early, we'll be in the death strip, and if we tunnel longer than necessary, we might run out of time or get caught. I'll find a way. Somehow, I exhaled a harsh breath as dread began to fill me. It was bad enough for me to use our friendship for such a dangerous reason, but the friendship was obviously over, and getting into her apartment now would be a product of lies and manipulation. So manipulation is a way of saying, like, using your cleverness or using your smarts to try to get somebody else to go along with what you're doing, and it's like a way of lying. On a few nights when I didn't crash into my bed asleep, I prayed that God would forgive me for all the lies I'd had to tell on our path to freedom. Fritz said he didn't pray for forgiveness because he didn't consider those lies a sin. Pray for forgiveness, sorry. He believed it was wrong to lie, but not as wrong as keeping us trapped behind a concrete wall. He said that instead, he prayed for all those people who were forced to serve a country they didn't believe in. Good people who held guns against us through no fault of their own. What about the people who want to hold those guns? I asked. I don't pray for them, he said. I can't. And I decided that very same moment that I would. Somebody had to. Not long before we intended to quit for the evening, Fritz began using the shovel as a wedge to pry out a rock lodged deep into the dirt. We pressed down on the handle together, but the rock was more embedded than we had expected. And now he had pushed the blade so far into the dirt that it was stuck too. Neither would budge. Let go, Fritz said. Let me try something. He grabbed the handle with both hands, then jumped into the air and let his full weight come down on the wood. Something cracked, and Fritz fell to the ground. No! Fritz leapt to his feet again with the broken shovel handle in his hands. I aimed our flashlight at the rock, and sure enough, the splinters from the other end of the handle stuck out of the earth like a porcupine's quills. We can get another shovel, I said. They'll have others at the store. Shovels are expensive, Gerta. He ran a hand through his hair, then kicked at the wall. It'll take the rest of the money from Papa. But it couldn't. We had agreed the rest of the money would be for groceries. In fact, we were quitting early tonight to buy them on our way home. I had spent half the day creating a shopping list in my mind. We'd have bread and sausages and potatoes and maybe a chocolate or two. Even cabbage sounded good. He wiped his sweaty hair from his face. We have to make a choice. It's either the food or another shovel. Isn't there one we could borrow? I asked. There were other shovels in the storage beneath our apartments. Someone will loan one to us. Once we're gone, the Stasi will look at everyone who might have been involved. If we borrow someone's shovel, the Stasi will say they helped us escape. What if we steal one? I spoke the words quietly, almost hoping he wouldn't hear them. But he did, and he turned to me with his eyes wide. Are you suggesting that, Gerta? I had stolen a pulley, though I didn't really consider that a crime, since it clearly hadn't been used in years and didn't appear to belong to anyone. But to steal a shovel from our own building, that was different. It was wrong and I knew it. The question was whether I could live with it. How many laws have we broken already? I asked him. We've lied to the state, and to the police, and to nearly everyone we've spoken to in the last month. You said yourself that it isn't wrong. Not for this tunnel. We accepted the hand tools and seeds to work on a garden we have no intention of harvesting. Worst of all, we are right now sitting directly below the death strip. What does a stolen shovel matter at this point? Fritz shrugged. I suppose it matters to the person who owns it. I leaned against the wall and listened to the growl of my stomach. If we used the last of our money to buy a shovel, starvation was becoming a very real possibility. Some of what the state teaches is important, Fritz said tiredly. We do have a responsibility to be good citizens. Even if we are rebelling against some of their laws, maybe even their biggest law right now, that doesn't mean we can rebel against everything that is right. They are also telling the truth when they say there are people in the West who will take advantage of others for their own profit. Some people use capitalism, which is an economic system where people are trying to make money from each other, and also providing services. Okay, so that's different than communism, which is kind of, I guess, the opposite, where the goal is more for not for people to make a profit and everybody to have the same amount, to help themselves and let the rest suffer for it. I guess what I'm asking, Goethe, is if that's who you want to be, when we're free. Are you willing to sacrifice other people if it means you can get ahead? Sacrifice is a great word being used here. Meaning, how do I explain it? It's like offering something to someone or yourself, and it usually means another person gets hurt. Okay? And a lot of people who criticize capitalism say that that's kind of what you have to do sometimes to get ahead, to make money. And I'm curious what you guys think about that. I closed my eyes and let only a single tear escape the corner. No, I mumbled. No, of course not. So we wouldn't steal the shovel, and the rest of Papa's money would buy a new one, and we'd pray that it held together until the tunnel was completed. I was still hungry, though, really hungry. I just didn't say it. There we sat for some time, mourning the loss of the shovel and collecting our strength to go home to an empty apartment with empty cupboards, filthy, exhausted, and alone. No, not alone. Footsteps had just landed on the floor of the air raid shelter. I was sure of it. Fritz had heard it too. We got to our feet, and he pressed me behind him, then held out the broken shovel handle as a weapon. Whoever was on the other end had a flashlight. We saw glimpses of the light as it bounced from one wall to another. And it turned in our direction, and the footsteps came towards us. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. We both already knew that Fritz's broken handle was useless against the weapons likely heading our way. Then the light rounded a bend in the tunnel, and a man's voice ordered us to raise our hands and to drop the stick. His light shone directly in our faces, preventing us from seeing who he was. But it didn't matter. I recognized the voice from yesterday. So, the Low children are doing something far more than gardening. Officer Miller lowered his flashlight, allowing us to see his face, cast in hard angles of light in a dark shadow. In his other hand, a glint of metal was reflected, his gun. Even this far below ground, I'm sure you know where you are right now. To the death strip. Oh no. You guys, what are they gonna do? Make a prediction. How are they gonna get out of this mess?